When you think of Rapunzel, you probably imagine golden hair, lanterns, and a dreamy tower escape. Disney's Tangled gave us a spunky heroine, an endearing rogue, and a magical adventure that ends with true love and a fresh haircut. But what if I told you that Rapunzel's real story isn't about magic hair or frying pans? That the original tale, the one Disney tried to bury under sunshine and song, is far darker, more twisted, and deeply unsettling. Today, we're untangling the golden braid of Disney magic to uncover the dark truths behind one of the most iconic fairy tales of all time. And trust me, the original Rapunzel isn't exactly singing, "I see the light." Let's start with the Disney version, Tangled, from 2010. In this retelling, Rapunzel is a lost princess, kidnapped as a baby by Mother Gothel, a woman who wants to exploit the healing magic in Rapunzel's long, golden hair. Gothel hides her away in a remote tower, posing as her mother and convincing her that the outside world is too dangerous to ever explore. For 18 years, Rapunzel remains locked in the tower, obedient, curious, and isolated, with no real idea of who she is. The one thing she dreams about? The floating lanterns released every year on her birthday, not knowing they're actually part of her parents' annual ritual to honor the daughter they lost. Enter Flynn Rider, a charming thief who stumbles upon the tower while hiding from palace guards. Rapunzel knocks him out, hides his stolen satchel, and blackmails him into taking her to see the lanterns. Along the way, they face danger, deception, unexpected allies, and horses, and slowly fall in love. Eventually, Rapunzel discovers the truth about her past, her powers, and Gothel's lies. In the climax, Flynn is mortally wounded, and Rapunzel agrees to return to captivity if it means she can save him, but he cuts off her hair instead, breaking Gothel's hold on her and destroying the magic. Gothel rapidly ages and dies. In a final twist, Rapunzel's tears still contain a spark of healing, enough to bring Flynn back to life. She's reunited with her birth parents, restored to the throne, and yes, they live happily ever after. So where did Rapunzel really come from? The version that most people reference comes from Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, published in 1812. But even that was an adaptation of an earlier French tale, which we'll get to later. In the Grimm version, Rapunzel begins in a way that's familiar across many of their stories, with a poor couple facing a moral dilemma. The wife is pregnant and begins to crave a plant called rampion, a leafy herb growing in the garden of their neighbor, who, unfortunately, happens to be a powerful witch. As her craving intensifies, the woman becomes physically ill and tells her husband she will die unless she gets some of the rampion. Desperate to save her, the husband sneaks into the witch's garden and steals some. The wife eats it and immediately wants more. When the husband returns a second time, he is caught by the witch. She offers him a terrible bargain. In exchange for as much rampion as he wants, he must give her their child once it is born. Fearful and powerless, he agrees. When the baby girl is born, the witch takes her away, names her Rapunzel, and raises her as her own. At the age of 12, Rapunzel is locked away in a tall, doorless tower deep in the forest. The only entrance is through a single window at the top. To visit her, the witch calls out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair so I may climb the golden stair." Rapunzel lowers her long golden hair, described in the story as 20 ells, or about 75 feet, and the witch climbs up. This continues for years, until one day a prince hears Rapunzel singing from the tower. Captivated by her voice, he observes the witch's routine and eventually mimics her words to gain access to the tower himself. When Rapunzel sees the prince, she's frightened. She's never seen a man before, but he speaks kindly to her, and they soon fall in love. Though she wants to leave, she doesn't know how. So the prince continues to visit her secretly every night, and they plan an escape. But one day, Rapunzel accidentally reveals the secret. In the original version, she wonders aloud why her clothes have grown so tight, indicating she's pregnant. In later revisions, she instead comments that the witch is heavier than the prince when she climbs the tower. Either way, the witch realizes she's been betrayed. Furious, the witch cuts off Rapunzel's hair and casts her out into a desolate wasteland. Then, using Rapunzel's severed braid, she tricks the prince into climbing the tower. When he reaches the top, he finds the witch alone. Devastated, he throws himself from the tower. He survives the fall, but thorns below pierce his eyes, leaving him blind. The prince wanders the wilderness for years, blind and heartbroken, surviving on roots and berries, and endlessly mourning the loss of Rapunzel. Meanwhile, Rapunzel gives birth to twins alone in the desert. Eventually, through fate, the prince hears her singing again. He follows her voice and finds her. When they reunite, Rapunzel's tears fall into his eyes and miraculously restore his sight. With his vision returned and Rapunzel and their children by his side, the prince takes them back to his kingdom. There, they are welcomed, and finally, they begin a new life together. And that is the Brothers Grimm version of Rapunzel. Their 1812 version is based on an earlier French tale called Persinette, written by Charlotte Rose de Caumont de la Force in 1698. De la Force was part of the Salon fairy tale movement, a group of aristocratic women who wrote allegorical stories as a way to discuss the power dynamics, social constraints, and gender expectations of their time. In Persinette, the story unfolds like this. A poor couple lives next door to a fairy's enchanted garden. The wife, pregnant and bedridden, develops a desperate craving for parsley, persil in French, hence Persinette, that only grows in the fairy's garden. Her husband sneaks in to steal some and is caught. The fairy demands their child in return. When the baby girl is born, the fairy names her Persinette and raises her in a high tower in the forest with no doors or stairs. As Persinette grows up, she sings beautifully, and one day a prince hears her voice. He watches the fairy's method of calling Persinette's hair down from the tower and mimics it to gain entry. The two fall in love over several secret visits. Unlike the Grimm version, this tale is much more romantic and expansive in its depictions of their growing connection. Eventually, Persinette becomes pregnant, and the fairy discovers the affair. In a rage, the fairy spirits Persinette away to a remote place. The prince later climbs the tower and is tricked when the fairy lets down Persinette's long braid. He falls from the tower and is blinded by thorns. After wandering blindly for years, he is reunited with Persinette, who has given birth to a child. Her tears restore his sight, and they return to his kingdom to live happily ever after. The themes in Persinette are more nuanced. The tower is not just a physical prison, but a symbol of confinement. The fairy is not wholly evil. She's a complex figure representing both protection and restriction. The prince and Persinette's relationship is filled with agency and mutual affection, rather than rescue and passivity. The first published version of the story was written by a woman, Charlotte Rose de Caumont de la Force, who was kicked out of court and exiled to a convent. She wrote Persinette while basically imprisoned. So when she writes about girls in towers, that wasn't fiction. That was autobiography. Persinette is a tale of longing, freedom, love, and reclaiming one's agency in a world that seeks to lock it away. Far from the sanitized happily ever after of Tangled, it was a coded message about women's lives, choices, and their fight for autonomy. Before we move on, let's talk about rampion, the plant that started it all. Rampion, or Campanula rapunculus, is a type of leafy herb, kind of like lettuce or spinach, that grows in the wild. In the Grimm story, Rapunzel's mother craves it so badly during her pregnancy that she becomes deathly ill without it. On the surface, it just sounds like a plot device. But in fairy tales, food often symbolizes longing, temptation, and sacrifice. Think about it. A simple craving ends with the loss of a child. It's also kind of brilliant. Rapunzel is born out of a woman's need and punished for it. Even before she's born, her life is controlled by someone else's hunger, someone else's bargain. Which is a pretty powerful metaphor for how women's choices get erased in stories. So if the original Rapunzel was this dark, layered story, how did we end up with Tangled? Well, Rapunzel has been retold dozens of times, each version reshaping the girl in the tower for a new audience. In the novel Bitter Greens by Kate Forsyth, the Rapunzel tale is reimagined as historical fiction with real-world imprisonment, plague, and a feminist lens. And in some indie and horror versions, Rapunzel isn't the damsel. She's the danger. The hair becomes a weapon. The tower a trap she chooses to lure men into. And with every retelling, we learn something new about power, fear, love, and the longing to escape. The reason this story sticks, even after 300 years, isn't just the drama. It's what the tower represents. The tower is a metaphor. It's not just a prison, it's a life. A place built for your own good. A place where someone else decides what's safe, what's allowed, what love looks like. Rapunzel's hair, that's her body, her connection to the world. It's used, touched, climbed on, cut off by people who claim to care about her. And the fairy? She's not a monster. She's complicated. She protects, but she controls. She raises Rapunzel, but keeps her from growing. This story isn't about escape. It's about realizing you were trapped at all, and then finding the courage to leave. So, why did Disney change it? Simple. Branding. Disney didn't build an empire on trauma, exile, or surprise pregnancies. They built it on dreams, songs, and sanitized magic. Stories that could sell toys, park rides, and family movie tickets. Everything that doesn't fit the mold gets cut. So when Tangled came out in 2010, they gave us adventure, humor, and a safe kind of heroine. The witch becomes a glamorous villain in a flowing cape, more Broadway diva than monstrous captor. Rapunzel? She's quirky, artistic, endlessly kind, not a girl who survives isolation, childbirth, and abandonment. The Exile, rewritten as a quest. Instead, we get floating lanterns, cute animal sidekicks, and a love story that ends with a haircut and a coronation. And to be fair, it works. Tangled is charming, beautifully animated, genuinely heartfelt, but it also erases something raw, something real. Disney gave us a heroine who dreams of lanterns, but the original Rapunzel wasn't dreaming of light. She was dreaming of freedom. Let me know, which version do you like better? The original French tale, the Brothers Grimm, or Disney's Tangled? If you enjoyed this video, you might also like our video on the dark origins of Sleeping Beauty. Thanks for watching.